Really no. If we could started to explore this concept of incentive or abatement criteria with the growth the town has had, and just making sure that it's maximizing land development and for the future planning purposes, to just have a conversation around things to look at, criteria, scoring, etc. So we served really as a facilitator in that role. We had various different meetings internally just to get a feel from both of their perspectives, things that were top of mind, initial framework. For those of you that may or may not know this, a lot of the Indy partnerships and regional economic development opportunities that immediately get presented to the town are in a very rapid turnaround timeline. So a lot of the times these companies, the requests come in under a project alias, very minimal information about the project, and arguably a very condensed timeline to make that initial filter. So part of the spirit of this criteria and this evaluation process was really just trying to make sure to provide staff, town management, a feel of some of these key components of council to be evaluating in those very time sensitive requests. So ultimately this is a first memo form of those. So page 1 of this just lists out 10 different criteria that were developed. These are consistent and defined on the 3rd page of your packet in a draft template or scoring fashion. They're defined in the description column. These were influenced by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation criteria, by the local Aspire wages and criteria, and then both by their preference. So from our perspective, we do want to just publicly commend the town for having this foresight. There are not many communities that have a well-defined criteria, and being able to have this as a kind of a framework, if you will, is simply going to be able to allow for 2 things in my professional opinion. One is it's going to be able to allow the town to move with speed in those initial kind of pre-filtering of the different communities, make sure that it's looking and responding to opportunities that are consistent with the criteria ultimately established by council. The second would be then it can be used in future updates of potential projects that are asking for an incentive back to council to kind of highlight any differences between what council has set as a preferred criteria and maybe how a given company fits within that. So for example, is it a local expansion versus a large national corporation? Is it a small business that's relocating from Indy to here, or is it a homegrown venture, right? Different things like that we wanted to make sure to try to provide a platform for. So a couple considerations from our perspective. This is not meant to be a black and white rule. Okay? This is meant to be kind of an initial evaluation framework. And it will likely be very much subject to change. And actually in our considerations, page 2, we do suggest that every couple of years at least, you review these, work with staff to make sure that you're updating these based on projects that come through. And then the last thing I'll have, then I'll open up for questions, is page 3 would be this is a hypothetical theoretical project, okay? But the idea here is that in future staff reports of projects that are being requesting an abatement or requesting some form of incentive that would ultimately come before council as a decision, this would ultimately be used behind the scenes to create a narrative around why the project is either good for the town or maybe not good for the town, to help kind of bring more thoughtful analysis to the council. The red, yellow, green is really more of a framework to say, these are how far it's in the box or outside of the box relative to these criteria. It is absolutely does not shape or bind any project's request from the council. So for example, A project that's in the green, you could still ultimately vote no to. A project in the red, you could still vote yes to. The idea would be then we would be able to more accurately define where an area is outside of these criteria, and that would hopefully just lead you all to more questions and analysis as you go through it as to why it might be still good for the town if it's technically outside of one of these categories. So very novel approach. We commend you all for it. I just want to take a moment and say that I think that from a policy standpoint, we wouldn't suggest it being a formal policy. We think it really is more of a guideline. It's more of just the analysis of going through it that I think is going to be the most flexible for you all. So without that, without any more, I'm happy to take any questions or try to do our best to summarize the conversations that have led to this.
I think we originally had kind of gotten into this from, was that personal property tax abatement that came before us, I want to say about 90 days ago. I think it was shortly before the tornado, which seems like a lot longer than 90 days ago.
Yeah.
But where we were kind of hoping to get an objective appraisal of it. And my recollection was that it was that at that point that we had asked Carmen to reach out and see if we could make something up like this. And I did speak to Mr. Stone a couple of times and kind of just gave him my thoughts in the process of things that I thought were important to the council, and he incorporated those. But anything that you guys think is missing should be added, you know.
Does it have a category, because this is based on like real property and kind of abatements, right? And property value.
Real and or personal.
So should we have a criteria of the amount?
Yep, so we have currently item 3.
First page, Richard.
Item 3 would be the overall investment, and then there is item 10 is a separate actual revenue expense impact to the town as well.
So those number 3 and number 10 would be relative to the
actual
potentially
revenue
abatement and analysis and so forth, and then you would okay.
Yep, and so they would just be kind of one component of that, and just for example, for the audience that can't see this, the industry, building type, company size, there would be other factors to look at. So, and this is presented today really as draft. It's the intention is to start utilizing it, submit some real projects with it, and then, even in our considerations, we put 10 might not be the right number, right? Maybe in 2 years, maybe it's 3 things, maybe it's 5 things, maybe it's 20 things. That's not for us to decide. That's really up to the town at large to kind of figure out. The takeaway would be, this is one step towards trying to find, okay, what are those targeted? What would be a company that makes the most sense to go very aggressive on from an incentive or not to incentivize? That's really the first step of trying to define what that means for the town. So I think from our perspective, I think the best practice would be to the next proposed, abatement from the town, kind of walk it through in a non-binding fashion, have staff be able to provide you a narrative on how it fits in with these, illustrate where it's good, where it's not, read through these, make sure you all feel personally comfortable with them from a constituency standpoint, and make edits as you see, because it's not necessarily a formal policy, this is really just to provide management with an opportunity to ask better questions in those meetings.
Okay. It's a good start.
Questions?
Good job.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I went back and looked in the computer and those GIS checks weren't printed because it was payroll 5/30 and pay date was 6/1, so they didn't get printed.
Okay.
So I went back and printed the checks real quick and the
Yeah.
balance is 218.
Gives you
Okay.
So if you guys wanna look at it as you sign it, it matches now.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, Deb.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump backward to ordinance 2023-05, revising the town code to revise town manager power and duties.
now, I think we all have the current version,
Monday's email.
Monday's email,
Okay.
2023-05. And what this is intended to do is provide the opportunity and an option to, instead of having a town manager, a single town manager, to instead have a director of administration and a director of operations to kind of share or have the town manager duties and hours divided between those two positions. And so you've got various wording to accomplish that. It's pretty, straightforward. It's intended to be consistent with, the existing language. It's just dividing up. And again, it's intended to be an option so that, right now you've got an opportunity with two individuals to put them in those positions and not have a town manager for the time being. And if you want to do that, you need to amend your town code to provide that and provide you the opportunity to be without a town manager and have that position's power and authority shared and divided up. It's a better word for putting that. I can go through the various pieces of it or the revisions. But I think they're pretty straightforward. Maybe it would be helpful to jump down to the third page, subsection D, which deals with the director of operations. And that will kind of show you what's carved out and not under the authority of the director of administration. And as it reads, the director of operations shall supervise the operations of the sewer utility department, the water utility department, the stormwater utility department, and the street department and all of those departments' employees. In the event there is a director of administration and not a town manager, the director of operations shall be under the direct supervision of the Board of Stormwater Management with respect to stormwater utility department. And that's a statutory issue. Statute says that's their job to oversee that. And under the direction of the town council with respect to the sewer utility department, the water utility department, and the street department, and any other matters not under the jurisdiction of the Board of Stormwater Management. In the event there is a director of administration and not a town manager, the director of operations shall hire, suspend, discharge, remove, and transfer any town employee of the sewer utility department, etc. The director of administration shall have no supervisory authority over the director of operations and has no authority to affect the terms and conditions of employment of the director of operations, including without limitation, making decisions about work assignments, compensation, grievances, advancement, or performance evaluation. That last part is important for dealing with the statutory prohibition about nepotism. And so if you were to have a married couple in those two positions, it's important to have that provision in there to avoid any problem there. One other thing that I did happen to realize that was not included that I would recommend be added, and you can look at it on page 3, you've got, and near the top, subsection 11. And after that, I would add another subsection 12, and it would read, and it basically addresses the fact that throughout your town code, you have a lot of references to the town manager. And if you don't have a town manager, what do those code references refer to then? Well, the answer is, and at least one option is, to add, in the event there is a director of administration and not a town manager, all references to town manager within the town code shall be interpreted as referring to the director of administration. So that just makes it clear, integrates the rest of the town code's references to town manager. Kind of bring those together. If you've got any other questions or want me to go over anything else, no.
So on the, who is the Board of Stormwater Management? Is that like a county thing?
No, that's
No,
our
It's
local.
local.
we have, every municipality kind of has one in there. It's a statutory creation. If you have a stormwater department, that their job is to make sure that flooding and stormwater issues are remediated.
Yeah, we call it the Stormwater Board. They meet on the
Next-
second Wednesday of each month.
Second Wednesday of every month.
I don't remember if they're all appointed by the executive or there might be two executive, one by the council, but they're one of the boards that we appoint
It's a 3-member board.
at the end of every year.
They have their own budget. That's why you never do any stormwater improving.
Okay.
There's a bunch of stormwater fees that get collected that pay the budget for them.
Sometimes the town manager will go to them and ask to purchase something with their money.
Is that, I mean, is that town employees that's on that board? So it's just outside of the town?
Now Dennis Capozzi is the president of the
The
board.
residents of the town.
The residents, they have to be residents, Jamie Dine and Mike Hendrickson, they're all.
Like the RDC or the plan commissioner, the BZA.
We have 5 boards.
Could function kind of in a similar fashion.
Okay, I wasn't sure of that, and if they were employees, that would be kind of funny to report to.
No,
Oh, no, they're appointed
Okay.
by the executive and by the council. Or maybe they might all be executive, I'd have to look at that.
I don't remember.
no, I think some are legislative. I'm not 100% positive, but I think so.
Well, the floor is open for any comments, amendments, motions.
I'm gonna add section 12 and
I'll move
I
to,
will. I'm waiting for them to tell me what they're wanting to do.
move to accept ordinance 2023-05 amended to number 12 in section 34-01.
And as part of that, I'll move the and from 10 to the end of 10, not to the end of 11.
Okay.
Okay. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second, and I think there's some, just because there's a motion on the table, actually, I think we're generally supposed to debate the motion technically. We don't normally do that, but, so, floor is yours, Mr. Gondager.
No, I was just making sure that we had the amendment.
I got it.
Oh, okay.
I heard
Which is
Laura
good, so
Muller.
Okay,
We're all set, we're all set.
any other council discussion? All right, in that case, vote by roll call, please, Deb.
Laura Fleury,
Yes.
Brad Gonecker,
Yes.
David Hawkins.
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor. Passes 5-0, Director of Operations.
It would be first reading, so it would not take effect tonight unless you were to suspend the rules.
Okay.
I'll move to suspend the rules for second vote.
There's a motion to suspend rules as regards 2023-05. Is there a second?
Second.
Vote by roll call, please, Deb.
Laura Fleury,
Yes.
Brad Gonecker.
Yes.
David Hawkins.
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor.
Yes.
Suspension passes 5-0.
Is there any further motions now that the rules are suspended?
Say that again.
Is there another motion now that the rules are suspended?
Move to take the second vote on ordinance 2023-05.
Motion for approval of second reading, is there a second?
Second.
Vote by roll call, please, Deb.
Laura Fleury.
Yes.
Brad Gonecker,
Yes.
David Hawkins.
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-05 passes second reading, final reading, 5-0.
All right. Now we move on to our next matter of old business, which is our vacant town manager position. Which, Carmen and Slim have been splitting the duties of, largely in a similar way as the ordinance we just passed. Really, since his absence. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, I know where I'm at on it. Is there anything that anyone wants to discuss, or any motions they want to make as far as filling that role?
I think they're doing amazing and continue
Okay.
how it's been going.
So is there a
We need a
motion?
vote on that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So we would need a motion to offer those positions to whoever the council wants to offer them to.
The motion to offer the Director of Administration position to Herman Young. Does it need to be two separate motions?
I don't believe so.
The position of Director of Operations to Sean Young.
Workable motion?
Yeah.
Mr. Watson? We have a motion, there's a second? There's a second. Vote by roll call,
I'm
please.
sorry, who was second?
So Joe,
Yeah.
made motion to, for the director of operations and all that, but so is that different from the town manager? Or they coincide, or exactly what are we voting on again?
We are voting, so we just passed the ordinance that gives us the ability to either hire a town manager or.
Based on this.
Or to split the job into two different positions. And so Laura's motion is to hire the job as two different positions and offer it to.
Okay, okay.
current employees who are acting in those.
All right, thank you.
So there's a motion to make those offers of employment in those newly created positions. There is a second, right, Dave? Vote by roll call, please.
Yes.
Todd Godecker?
Yes.
David Hawkins?
Yes.
Richard Hill?
Yes,
Joe Saylor?
Yes.
Town manager position split between Director of Administration and Director of Operations, passes 5-0.
Do we have to take a second? Thank you. All right, new business, ordinance 2023-08, amendment to the Patch PUD ordinance.
Somebody pick up. Hold on. Okay, I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but just to give you guys an update, Patch did go to the Plan Commission last week and requested an amendment to their PUD, their plan development, basically eliminating Block B, which was proposed to have two buildings, and they're asking for their block C. For Block C, which was originally a 617,000 square foot building that could be expanded to 840,000 square foot, and now they're asking for, with the removal of Block B, to have the building potentially expandable to 1.1 million square feet. The staff report, well, the Plan Commission voted in favor of this 6-0 to pass that on to you all for consideration tonight. There are some things, and I don't want to steal Patch's thunder, that they can share with you as to why they're requesting this revision to the PUD. So the commission provided a favorable recommendation for this, and I'll allow Andrew to go with the development to speak.
Good evening, Andrew Greenwood with Patch Development. Thank you for your time this evening. We've brought this forward to the Plan Commission and now for you to review and hopefully approve, because we have seen some market demand has been there to expand the building size. The 840,000 square feet is kind of an awkward square footage, and so we've seen a lot of interest in the 400, 600, and then expanding it to the 1,000,001. We have two particular groups that are talking to us currently about this. The square footage that we originally proposed in Block B, if you combine that with the original Block C, it's 1,000,001. So we're not increasing the overall square footage of what we were planning to do. We're just having an opportunity to add it in one building. The setback to the west actually increases. So I know originally the distance from the property line to the building and the setbacks actually are greater. I know originally when we brought this through, that was always a concern, the buffering along the western side. It stays the same, but the actual building is even farther from the property line, which allows for plenty of buffering and concerns. It also removes the desire, the demand to actually loop the road all the way around, which would save everybody time, money, and effort in the long run. So if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to.
I know when, Carmen had brought this up, you know, there's a, what we call it, a different financial structure to the project, or slightly different than traditional. As this sits, do you anticipate this being a net positive or net negative financially to the town over the original concept?
Net positive, because of the removal of a significant amount of infrastructure that now no longer has to occur.
Okay.
So if you think about that road that was gonna go around the existing 600 or 800,000 square foot building, any road that will go there would then be on us as a part of what we're doing and not be a part of the public infrastructure. And I think hopefully in the near future, we'll be coming back on our phase 2 of the tax incremental financing opportunity and discussing that, but you'll see a change in that whole dynamic because of if this is able to pass.
Okay.
That would bring the bond maturity dates up how?
No, if we're able to expand the building, that would significantly, assuming that the assessed value is there and that we receive, you know, if we were able to do the building in the next short time frame and the assessed value comes in the same as what's projected, it's a dramatic difference in the payoff of the bonds. It's significant. I mean, you're adding, 400 some odd thousand square feet. It's basically a whole new building, right? And that original bond didn't anticipate that expansion. It was solely done on the 617 and the other building to the north. So that's why it would be a dramatic difference. And I think when we're go through this process, if this is to pass tonight on the second phase of the TIF financing, we'll have a full breakout and show all of it.
Sir, you made mention of additional interest and so forth, I guess, in doing this for the adjustment. I mean, is that gaining traction to significant interest, or is it just, are you just talking about it?
No.
Can you elaborate on that at all?
We've received what we call an RFP, or request for proposal, from 2 parties.
Okay.
For that, so hence why we're bringing that forward. But that, again, that does not guarantee
Yeah,
it
yeah.
happens. In our business, that's a good step in the right direction, but that doesn't mean 100% until.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Council discussion on 2023-08 or motions.
I'll move to accept ordinance 2023-08.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Godecker. By roll call, please, Deb.
And before we vote, just for the record, is it correct that your intention is that this would be that since this is in the nature of a zoning ordinance, your intention that it be a final approval?
Correct.
That you're voting on?
Correct.
I was gonna ask, one reading.
Can you lower the temperature in here a little bit? It's hot.
I'm comfortable.
And you're still seconding with that clarification, Mr. Godecker, right?
I am. Okay.
Motion and a second. At Deb's convenience.
That's pretty good. 2 inquiries. That's pretty good. 2 inquiries on the RFP.
Laura Flurry,
Yes.
Brad Godecker,
Yes.
David Hawkins,
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Solar,
Yes.
passes 5-0. Ordinance 2023-08.
Update on the Bob Glidden roundabout.
So tonight, and again, I won't steal Trent's thunder, but Slim and I have been working on a couple of road improvement projects, and one of these that's before you tonight is the Bob Glidden roundabout consideration, providing a traffic impact study and beginning an engineering study on the need and desire for better traffic movement out by the interstate. In July, we'll be coming back to you with another roundabout that I know was a hot topic a few years ago at the Sawmill Centerline Road and Whiteland Road. That one, we're actually working alongside Crossroad Engineering as well as the town of New Whiteland and the county. So we want to kind of make sure we have all of our ducks in a row before we come back to you all with that, and we plan on presenting to those entities as well. But I'll turn it over to Trent to kind of share with you what his team has been able to come up with so far.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Trent Newport. I'm the president of Crossroad Engineers. You may or may not be familiar with our firm, but we've been established since 1995. We're out of Beach Grove. Largely, we live on the south side. I live in Cartersville. We have out of 50 employees, I think 5 or 6 that live actually in Whiteland. So we've had a presence in this area a long time. We've actually worked for the town of Whiteland over the years many times. Probably the most notable project is the roundabout at Whiteland and Graham. So I'm going to run through this. This is a draft to leave with you, and it's draft because we've got some things to just finish up with it from our traffic study, and also we want to give staff a chance to look at it. They just got this today to see if there was any additions. So I want to kind of just hit the highlights, and so you can read this on your own afterwards. So we're going into page 3, project education, which is Whiteland and Glidden. But then also that stretch basically going east of Whiteland, east of Bob Glidden over to Warrior Trail. The project need and purpose is really to add capacity while improving safety, not only at that intersection, but that stretch. The next part just kind of goes into the existing facility and talks about road widths and right-of-way widths. So I'm going to flip through our traffic. We did a traffic analysis. And part of this that we did was a traffic analysis also of Whiteland and Graham. Again, this is a roundabout that we did, I want to say, it's been over a decade. 2000, I don't know.
16.
You may have started design work then, but
Yeah,
not
maybe it might have been built in 16.
Well, the ban was 2014, so.
Yeah. So part of the question that came to us is, there's obviously a lot more traffic in that area. The interstate's always been there with development in that area. And a lot more traffic going down to Franklin because of the work that they've been doing as they grow up on that northeast side with their bypass and so forth. A lot more traffic going south on Graham. How is that roundabout functioning when we do a traffic study on? So part of this was to look at that. Actually, volumes have increased, but at a reasonable growth, and we do not see a need to add any lanes to the Whiteland Graham roundabout. Doesn't mean that you won't have to in the future, but that page 4 kind of goes through some of that traffic data and shows basically with that continued growth that in 2034 and 2044, we're still seeing decent levels of service on that roundabout. So we are not proposing any addition to that roundabout of Whiteland and Graham, the existing. Feel free to interrupt me with any questions at any time. So the second part of that page is the traffic data at Whiteland and Bob Glidden. And we do that in order to kind of evaluate what the size of the roundabout needs to be, how many lanes and so forth. And so this is for, and we do truck percentage accounts and so forth, and then look at that as a growth. So you can see there a design year, say 2024, and then 2034 and 2044. We typically look 10 and 20 years in advance to make sure we're building an intersection now that doesnn't fail in the life of the pavement.
Sir, I apologize.
It's all right.
So, doing a traffic study with Whiteland Road and Graham, the roundabout, you made mention, that's the Cooper Tire roundabout, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Patch Development is expanding his warehouses and stuff and has RFPs for potential, what if scenarios. So is that something that you would have to come back if he were to land something there and do additional studies, because potentially that would impact that roundabout?
So he's to the east of there.
Southwest.
Southwest corner there. Potentially, although your heavy traffic loads are to the are on the east approach, and so that he is coming in and out. But we do plug in a growth factor. And so, obviously with any development, it's gonna take time for that to grow up. And so, I think in here, we talk about 1% growth factor per year at that roundabout. And still in 2020 and 2034, which is 10 years, we're still a good level of services. Obviously, what this shows is in 20 years down the road, only with 1%, we're getting on that east leg, that east approach to a service that we're not comfortable with, which is the E. Could that be faster because of that? Yes. Is it worth spending money to do something with it right now? No. I've always believed we should be a little bit more reactionary with our road projects to know that things are really there, and that they're there and have a substantial use before you build something ahead of it.
Okay, thank you.
The next page, page 5, there lists kind of what that heavy vehicle percentage is for the Bob Glidden intersection. And then the next part of that is something we looked at, the effects at Warrior Trail. NDOT had proposed to do a project that they were looking to fund, and all of their projects are competitive within themselves, to improve the interchange at Whiteland Road to be similar to what Worsville interchange is. So a single point interchange. Part of that is we wanted to shut off left turns coming down Warrior Trail so that they could not make that left turn. And the reason that they want to do that is because it's so close to the interchange and it adds to the congestion. Unfortunately, what that does for you is it pushes all that traffic coming down Warrior Trail. They can't turn left now. They want to get to the interchange. They've got to go west and around a roundabout, whether it's Whiteland and Graham, it's there now, or this one that we'd be potentially doing at Whiteland and Bob Glidden. So what we wanted to do is have a study here to show that that has a negative impact on a roundabout at Whiteland and Bob Glidden. And in fact, it increases the size of it and adds a lane. And we think that can be used to go back to NDOT to say, if you do that, this is something you need to solve. And really what we think would be a better solution next to the interchange is putting a roundabout at Warrior Trail as part of the NDOT project. Now, whether or not they would agree to that is something, would have to be in future discussions. The project that they proposed, my understanding, did not get funded in this round. So they would wait till next winter to maybe take that project again through a funding phase. But I think that needs to be a discussion with them before that time. And this report is something that can be used to send to NDOT by your staff to say, we've had an engineer study this, and if you cut that off, it's going to have an impact on us, as we should not be financially. Make sense?
So you're saying that if they cut off that left turn,
Basically.
then it's going to increase the size of the roundabout?
Yeah, because everybody's got to go west to get back to the interchange.
Okay.
Right? They've got to go back to this new roundabout or to Whiteland Graham. It would have a similar effect if you don't build this one before them. It would have a similar effect to Whiteland Graham roundabout. That's the only place those trucks are going to turn around, right?
Yeah.
Basically,
Herman, didn't they consider a roundabout there at Bob Glidden once before?
We had talked about it, but never had any through traffic studies done. There's been proposals in front of previous town leadership, but nothing had moved forward.
No traffic studies then, no?
and not by NDOT. NDOT, that's outside of their jurisdiction, so they wouldn't offer.
I think Warrior Trail might have had some sort of look at it.
We talked
Long time
about,
ago.
yeah, I mean, Warrior Trail is too close to the interchange. That will not allow us to improve it in any form or fashion, except for put a median and force that traffic west. And so that's where, we've come up with, maybe we can do a right in, right out, and, some different things just to help. So that's why that Strongbox property has not been able to develop, because NDOT will not allow them to improve that intersection, because it's a three-way signal right now, and they will not allow any improvement to that until they either come through their project or we solve the problem for them.
Thank you.
Sense so far? Page 6 is just talking about some data on the roads and what we use as design parameters. At the bottom is probably what you care most about, which is an attempt to give you kind of an all-in cost for a future project at this location. And again, this is not just the roundabout, and I'll show you an exhibit here in a second, but it's improving the road going east or approaching close to Warrior Trail. But that all-in cost is just under $2 million. It's not a project that probably is very fundable at the NPO level, which is how we funded Whiteman and Graham. Just because it doesn't have a stop condition, it doesn't have a lot of accident data, it doesn't have something that checks the boxes that they would probably fund. So, you know, unlike the one we'll be talking about next month, which I do think probably has a good opportunity to be funded through the NPO, I don't think that this one would be. And so it would have to be something that you would do local funded. But what we try to give you is kind of an all-in, your design, your construction, inspection, right-of-way cost. In this particular case, you have right-of-way already there for this project, which is a good thing, a very unique thing that you don't have to buy right-of-way for the development of the project. But again, that costs is right under the $2 million. Page 7 just kind of goes through any environmental right-of-way, utility issues, traffic, construction, all things that be worked through, but no red flags on this project from all those perspectives. And then the last 3 pages are the detailed cost estimate that supports the construction number on that previous page we looked at. It's a very early estimate, so we do have some contingency in there. The contingency would probably allow it to be something that's not just next year, maybe in 2 years, but obviously if we wait years and years, then you'd have to add an inflation factor. Last year we saw a very high inflation factor on construction. Hopefully that's not what we see year to year going forward, and it's not what we're seeing this year. So, and then this last is north is to the right, so you want to turn your head to the right if you're looking at that. Whiteman Road's going up and down on this, with Bob Living going to the left or south. You can kind of see the green medians, and that median going east, if you see, we build it all the way out to the concrete pavement that's not quite out to Warrior Trail, but that's that east lane of the project. And you know, typically a roundabout cost all in with right of way and potentially utility costs is probably going to still be in that $2 million range. But this one doesn't have some of those, doesn't have right of way costs because you already have it, doesn't have a lot of utility costs. But adding in that east leg work puts it back to that, around that $2 million mark.
Joe, is that Amazon?
I believe it is.
So, yeah.
Is the Amazon building that's in this area?
Right roof, is that Amazon, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so then you can see kind of the pond at the southwest corner there. But it all fits into the existing right-of-way that you have. So yeah, be happy to answer any questions. We'll work with staff to just get any comments. I think as I had this up on the screen, you saw I found a few things that I would review. We will finalize that and send it out to you in a final draft. But I'd be happy to answer any questions, here in this council meeting or even individually in phone calls or come back to present. Again, it does take a while to develop a project and get it to construction. So a project that say is going to start now is not going to be built this year. But it is a project that could go fast because one of the things that typically slows down projects is right-of-way acquisition, and you don't have that. Or major utility relocation, you don't have that. So, could this be the fastest? How fast could this be built? It could be built in 2024.
Thank you.
Do we need any action on this tonight, Carmen, or?
No, I just wanted him to be able to provide updates.
Okay. All right, we did that. All right, we're on salary ordinance. Maybe I missed it, but, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna give a little bit of introduction on that, and yeah, looks like you were provided a copy, with your packet. The reason this was included is because it kind of goes hand in glove with the town manager position, reorganization that we just did. We essentially created two new positions, one being the Director of Administration and one being the Director of Operations. And when you do that, and you want to pay that position, you have to have it in your salary ordinance. And so that is, why you're provided basically a highlighted draft, and some sort of a decision needs to be made as to how you're going to compensate your new positions that you just created. So that's why you have this on your agenda.
And so the Director of Operations, that, Director of Administration is a new line.
They're both in.
Town Manager would be unfunded. And then Director of Operation is an existing line, basically.
I currently have a little over 61% left of town manager funds.
Okay.
The amount that I put in there, is it,
I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Your copy is different.
that's up to you guys. I just
Your
put
question.
an amount in there.
We passed, we got a director in there.
Are we funded for the amount that you put in there?
Yeah, we have enough left, town manager to
So that's,
fund that.
that's not being
Um,
used. Have to do this, okay.
I don't know what you think about the amount, so it can be changed if you want to change it.
Amounts are good.
So the amounts were just an arbitrary number that you just, as a filler? Or was there discussion for that or reasoning for those numbers or?
I'd rather not say how I came up with that amount. I just, put something in there.
What were our, I think, so our top at Town Manager was 90.
90.
Was 90. And as I recall, when we hired Kevin and Jim, we had them level up, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? Do you recall where they were starting at?
They were at the
75 and then 80.
No, not where they
Well,
ended at,
Jim-
where they started at.
Jim's pretty high.
Yeah, Jim started, he was water supervisor, so he was in the 60s. And then you guys bumped him up to town manager after so many months to the full amount, which was only, I think it was like 80.
Okay.
Because we've had an increase since then.
Okay.
Kevin started out at like 75 and then got bumped up to 80 with the next however many probation you guys had for him.
Okay. Carmen and Slim, do you want to be heard on the matter?
I know when I spoke to Stephen, he just said I can only make recommendations on my position,
Yes.
obviously. I mean, I feel comfortable with what you all deem appropriate for us. I also just want to make sure that it's fundable. You know, I guess that's my main concern. I think I had thrown out an arbitrary number, but I don't like to say this is what I want to be paid. I want it to be like something again that could be fundable for both positions. I guess my only take on it is that I feel like they need to be equal. Because in our previous positions, they were not equal. So that's my only, point of.
Are you both comfortable with that amount?
I don't think she's seen the ordinance.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, the ordinance says 85K per position.
85,000.
I am fine with that. I can't speak for him.
Slim, do you want to be heard on it?
I feel comfortable with that.
85,000
I'd
with
be
the
negotiating.
director of operations.
I said I'd be negotiating if I were you. That's just me.
Call that the probationary period.
Go on that here later.
I'm lucky to get that funded.
Yeah, and that's where, again, this year, and then not knowing how it'll all shake out with the roles that we're taking on and splitting of duties, meaning that we could each still kind of do some of what we were previously doing. And so to kind of see, how we go into budget season and making sure, that the tasks are all being accomplished. And if that means maybe we have to look at hiring another person for one or both of some of the duties we were doing, that'll give us some time to dig into the budget and see what's achievable.
Slim, you have to start getting out of the machinery now.
I'm gonna do that.
From time to time.
Now we
Yeah.
need a little bit more paperwork.
So Deb,
You're all about the paperwork.
so you have a town manager salary that is open.
Correct.
Then you have a community development planning position salary that is open. Correct? Is that a true statement?
Well,
And a water supervisor.
their monies is still gonna be theirs, what they're making, coming out of, she's being paid out of community development money, and he's being paid out of, public works coordinator supervisor. And so there's just, using the town manager's leftover to supplement them.
And what about,
6 more months
okay,
of income to pay.
and what about the water supervisor?
And water supervisor, we have not been able to find anybody with a license.
Well, my concern is,
So that
you
money's available.
said that you potentially were struggling to fund.
No.
No,
Not
not
struggling,
struggling.
not struggling to fund, you're just, okay.
So I have the water supervisor money and the town manager money to split.
Ready for a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion to accept ordinance 2023-09 salary ordinance.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Hill, at your convenience, please, Deb.
Laura Fleury,
Yes.
Brad Godecker.
Yes.
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor.
Yes.
Salary ordinance 2023-09 passes first reading, 5-0.
One thing that's not on our agenda but was brought to my attention, I think it probably makes sense to address it right now, is, sorry.
If you want those salaries to go in effect immediately, we should.
Right.
I was just getting ready to ask you that.
Yep, okay.
Suspend the rules, amend the second reading.
All right, there's a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Deb.
Laura Fleury,
Yes.
Brad Godecker,
Yes.
David Hawkins,
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor.
Yes.
Suspend the rules, passes 5-0.
Now that the rules are suspended, is there an additional motion as regards second reading?
I move to apply the second reading. Another way I should,
Motion to approve
second reading
on
on
second reading.
ordinance 2023-09 salary ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second it.
By roll call, please, Deb.
Laura Fleury,
Yes.
Brad Godecker,
Yes.
David Hawkins,
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor.
Yes.
Salary ordinance 2023-09 passes 5-0, second reading, final reading.
And one more item related to that. Salary ordinance only establishes the maximum. It does not actually set their salaries. I would suggest that there be a motion to authorize their salaries to be at whatever you want it to be, probably the 85, but no higher than 85, but so that your clerk treasurer has it in the record,
Okay.
what you have approved to be those salaries.
Is there a motion to set salaries for Director of Administration, Director of Operations?
So be it.
That's a motion to set salaries at $85,000 each, is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
This just sets the maximum, but what you're actually going to pay them, because you can pay less than the maximum. It's different.
So there's a motion by Mr. Hawkins, is there a second?
Second.
At your convenience, please, Deb.
Laura Flurry,
Yes.
Greg Odecker,
Yes.
David Hawkins.
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Bring up one thing real quick. No, I promise I'm
You're
not
gonna,
going to.
Deb is gonna kill us if we have to.
Now she wants to negotiate.
Just at the last month, when we did the salary ordinance, that it was just for that acting town manager position, that would be retroed back to April 1st. That hasn't been done because we knew that these other additional changes were coming.
Okay.
So is it from here on forward that those salaries are in effect, or from the time that we were kind of put in these unofficial roles, put in the roles?
I thought that when we had passed the amended ordinances a month or two ago that we had made those retroactive. Am I wrong about that?
We
We're
did,
only
but it
talking
was
about
just
Carmen.
for acting town manager and not him,
Oh,
and nothing's
okay.
been done, like, no amendments to the pay has been made. And I just said, let's wait until we get it all
Okay.
cashed out.
I think we were waiting on this
Yeah.
before we decided what that figure was.
You might be right.
First Amendment did not include Director of Operations.
Yeah, okay. Well, we should probably address that. I know we talked about it previously. Do we want to use this number and go back retro to, what was it, April 1st?
31st, April 1st, yeah.
Well, it made a difference for Deb as far as
She had some sort of pay
payroll,
Maybe it was.
or maybe it was a couple days earlier.
April 1 to 515 or something like that.
That payroll was, April 1st, ended, that Sunday. So
The second.
that was the end of that payroll, so the next payroll started on that Monday.
So did we make it effective April 3rd?
When does your payroll start? What day
That
of-
payroll,
What day of the week?
Monday, starts the
Monday,
new payroll, so that would
April
have been,
3rd was a
Right.
Monday.
April 3rd was the new payroll.
First was Friday, first, second, third.
Make it retroactive, April 3rd.
Yeah, we had either done April 3rd or that in late in March. I don't remember which we did, to be honest.
I don't either.
Well, I think we were aligning with her payroll dates.
Well, no, I mean, or going back 2 weeks into March. But I think that probably the math comes out net about right at
You
April
can't-
3rd, if that works for you
Yeah,
guys.
because you can't go back because Jim was still drawing a paycheck.
Yeah, let's just go April 1st. Or, I'm sorry, April 3rd. April 3rd, sorry. Someone needs to make a motion.
So be it.
April 3rd to what's the end date of,
We're
Here
just,
on out.
yeah,
From
it's
April
just,
3rd to today.
oh, okay.
At the new salary, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
yes. So make the salary that was just made effective retroactive back to April 3rd.
Is this for the director of operations position only?
Be for both.
Is that gonna be okay with your books and so
I
forth?
mean, I don't care, but I just know that, yeah, it's whatever you guys want to do.
Well, did the retroactive thing we did with town manager, or acting town manager was it effective? Or have we held off on it?
We've held off on it.
Okay, then for both. Would be
For both.
fine.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, because I didn't want to keep changing payroll.
yeah, I understand.
It's hard.
All right, is there a motion?
I move to, I don't even know how to say it. I'm tired tonight.
How have the new salaries for the new position.
85,000,
Be 85,000.
retroactive to
April 3rd.
April 3rd. Okay, why didn't you do it?
There's a second.
Second.
Vote by roll call, please, Deb.
Laura Fleury,
Yes.
Brad Godecker,
Yes.
David Hawkins.
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor,
Yes.
passes 5-0.
Hey, Joe, just
Yeah.
while we're on that subject, so all the other employees that we kind of, has all that been taken care of? So everybody else is taken care of. It was just these two that,
Just these two.
okay, okay. Good deal.
Slim had brought up to me that with the upcoming 4th of July holiday, we give our employees Tuesday off, but we don't give them Monday off, which kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a fragmented
Yeah.
way to do it, and I think,
It's on the Tuesday.
Yeah, we've never done another day.
Yes, we
Uh,
did the same. We did it with the norm was here, we provided them another day when there was that.
Yeah.
we did it on occasion.
I don't get paid off.
I'm certainly open to the idea. I think that, it's rough when you fragment the weekend like that. And I think our employees have done a heck of a job in the past few months. So I told Slim I'd bring it before the council, whether or not the council wanted to give the town employees an additional holiday of, it would be July 3rd.
Okay. I don't want to call it holiday, because if somebody gets called out or has to work, they get double time.
What would you
It could
call
be
it?
a day off, paid day off,
That's fine. Additional paid day off.
additional.
But if they
paid day
get
off.
called into work, they're gonna get double time anyway.
Oh, it's no different than Saturday or Sunday.
If you kept it regular hours,
Yeah, I need to keep it regular.
Okay.
comes the holiday, then you get another.
You gotta
Well, I ain't
remember,
making a motion
we
on
only
this one.
budget overtime, we only budget 5,000 for overtime, and I've already moved that out the window.
Come.
You know me.
All right, so,
Just an eye on this one would pass it, wouldn't it?
I think so.
It's regular pay for the 3rd, July 3rd.
I mean, if you guys don't mind.
No, mind. Is there a motion to give July 3rd as a regular day, a regular day of pay off to the town employees?
So be it.
All right, we'll just do this one by acclamation, because I think Deb's wrist is getting sore.
My arm's good.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote by acclamation. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Get paid off.
All right. We are now on to resolution 2023-10, which is creating a new restricted donation fund for that lift station money that Moore wants to give us. We're getting late in the evening, so I'm gonna try and kind of move,
Thank you.
as soon as I find my ordinance.
What's the resolution next?
Here you go.
All right, so that's, resolution 2023-10. This is basically just to create a fund for us to put the money that Moore wants to, give us. Any questions or concerns, comments? All right, hearing none, I'll call for a vote by acclamation, please.
Move to accept ordinance or
Or, I'm
resolution.
sorry, call for a motion, I should say, sorry.
Move to accept, resolution 2023-10.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Vote by acclamation. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Next order of business is tall grass, ordinance 2023-06.
So we kind of forgot about this during winter because grass goes dormant. But real quick, I had code enforcement help with this ordinance. Basically, it's to set some additional parameters. Right now, tall grass follows the same process as other code violations, and we end up having 3 feet of grass. And so what we did is we looked at putting some parameters around the height of the grass. We actually increased it to 8 inches with the in violation above that, as well as we added some better definitions to rubbish. And with that, just kind of gives some examples of what the town would consider rubbish, and that we are asking for that to be out of the line of sight from the public streets and right of way. We have some residents that like to keep their things on the side of their house, but it's visible from the street, and so this would just allow us a little bit better parameters on getting those violations. We also did look at the increasing of the rates. If we have to go out and abate any violations. So just, again, this is an ordinance. We are getting late today, but it is also mowing season. And so it would be something to help our code enforcement be able to have more teeth around any violations when it comes to tall grass.
If we have
I'm being targeted for my tree stump.
Oh, I'll send them out tomorrow.
if we go out and have to mow somebody's yard and all that, what do we charge for
And
that?
that's what's on the second and third page, and it talks about if we send out our listers, and I updated them based on, we updated them based on what their salaries are, so those rates were kind of low. So went ahead and increased those as well. But we haven't had to go out and do that because the one property where we were going to go do that, we were told to get off of her property, so.
Yeah.
But she did end up getting it somewhat.
Is that our,
Yes.
Our lady.
Would it,
Why are we so?
talk about,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
talked about side yard, accumulation of rubbish and so
This says
forth.
front yard.
It says front yard. If you want to enforce against side yard items that are visible, I would suggest that we add or side.
Yeah, or do we even wanna say visible from the street? Because some people may have a chain link fence or not have a fence at all. There is a property on West Street here. It actually faces, I think it's, it faces Colony, and it has a whole bunch of stuff
From the public right away.
facing West Street.
Bags of trash.
From my neighbor.
my thought would be maybe just strike in the front yard of the property and just put that is readily visible from the public right of way.
Okay.
If that would make sense.
So does that
On
mean
the
road?
property that is visible from the public right of way.
It would mean the road or the sidewalk, basically.
Yeah.
So what if your neighbor was looking out their kitchen, but not in the road, but they could see it? So how does that,
The street or the sidewalk.
so,
That generally would then involves privacy fence and neighbor relations and that sort of thing. But I'd be hesitant to get into too much backyard regulation.
My question is, why are we so cheap on this?
I mean, that's up for, this is a red line, so this is something that we can, again, we're getting late in the night, so it's something you guys can, look at, and we can come back with higher. I believe Franklin, no matter what it is, it's a $200 or $250 violation.
I think Greenwood's like $800.
Oh, no, I only stick them for 3, sir.
I think the biggest thing with this is that we wanted to be
It's
able
not
to take action on
ridiculous.
these folks sooner rather than waiting up to 60 days.
Kenny
We have to
Duncan
bring
was
it
telling me about it the other day.
Carmen, that was my
$800.
next question is how are you gonna enforce these changes and make sure that
With
it's,
equipment. and
being
everything,
followed.
okay. Say that again.
Are you gonna
Well, I
enforce
mean,
these
how we
as being
normally do
followed?
it is we call them, talk with them, try to work with them on, whatever their situation is, and give them a timeline of when they need to have it abated by. And then we always, after the phone call, we always do provide a letter, and that talks about how we would, send it first class, certified and take it on the front door, so you get it 3 different ways. But as far as abating it, it still would have to come before. So if there's something that where we can abate it on our own and not have to bring all of the nuisances to you all, I think it would help you, help save time on your part too.
In previous years, when we have abated somebody, then I go down and file a lien on their property for the amount that we charge them to abate it, and then it's paid through the property taxes. I file a grass lien, is what I file.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So this, the way it's written, would have to come before the town council before you take action? Or do we just trust your judgment? I mean, this seems like it's nuisance ordinance. I mean, seems like,
Yeah, it's the law. So I don't know if they have to go before the councils anywhere else. Do you?
Well,
Have like a
Do
board
they
of
have to go
ordinance.
before any of the councils to do abatements?
I think,
Usually, go ahead, Susan.
I was gonna say, I quickly read it, and what it says, I believe, would allow, well, if a property owner who's been given a notice requests a hearing with the council,
Okay,
they are entitled to
so
that.
that should be on the notice.
It should be.
Yeah.
If they don't request it, though, within the time period that they're required to request it,
Right.
I think the staff is authorized under the town code to abate.
Right.
And obviously, we just want to be judicious about that. And there's somewhere I would be in favor of getting a court order, before we, but, there's a lot that it probably could be. So, I think most municipalities, if they're going to abate without getting a court order or at least council approval, it's typically on vacant properties where they're just letting that go wild. That there's less shotgun point interactions. Do you want us to do something on this tonight, or is it all right if we? Well, I mean, I'm fine with whatever the council wants. Is the council's pleasure to do something on this tonight?
do you have issues now that you need to address? Or could we talk about next month?
Yes, but for the most part, they have been, once they get the letter, the call and the letter, then they get it taken care of. I mean, we've had some of the properties, we've been less restrictive on the folks that have been impacted by the tornado, obviously, if they're not living there.
My
But
beautiful
just,
tree
you know,
stump.
did you get a letter?
My beautiful tree stump.
Oh.
Be out on my beautiful tree stump.
So, I mean, we have been lenient on the folks that may not be living there because of the show.
Okay. Is there a motion to continue, or do someone want to move to approve, or what direction do we want to go here?
If they've got things in process, let's approve it so they can use it.
Okay. So is that a motion to approve?
Yes.
I would suggest, though, that on the first page, we fix, so to speak, or revise. And based on the discussion, I think you want to give the most flexibility you can, which would mean deleting the words "in the front yard of" and say "on a property." And with that change, I think you get what you want.
I would make a motion to amend it to strike in the front yard of a property to on a property and to add the word readily before visible.
Got it.
So be it.
All right, is there a second on my motion?
Second.
All right, vote by acclamation on that. All in favor, aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion carries. Is there a motion to approve? I think, did you already make one?
Yeah.
All right, that's as amended?
Yes.
All right, there's a motion to approve as amended of 2023-06. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all right, acclamation as well. All those in favor, aye.
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 All opposed?
You want to suspend the rules?
Yes.
All right, we've got to do that by roll call. There's a motion to suspend the rules from Mr. Hawkins. Is there a second?
Second it.
Second by Mr. Hill. Roll call, please, Deb.
Overflurry?
Yes.
Brad Decker? Richard, Dave Hawkins?
Yes.
Richard Hill?
Yes.
Joe Saylor?
Yes.
Passes 5-0 to suspend the rules.
Move for second vote.
That's approval, second reading?
Yep.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Vote by roll call, please.
Overflurry?
Yes.
Brad Godecker?
Yes.
David Hawkins?
Yes.
Richard Hill?
Yes.
Joe Saylor?
Yes.
Second reading. Ordinance 2023-06 passes 5-0.
Am I recollecting? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Final reading.
We can't enforce this until we do certain
It has to be
applications, correct?
And I'll take care of that.
Okay. And, can you remind me after the meeting, I have a question for you about publication.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, we have
07.
07, revising the subdivision control code requirements concerning roads.
So this one is, went to the planning commission as well. As we're in the process of looking at our zoning code, our subdivision control, and merging that into a unified development ordinance, which is UDO. But while we're in process of doing that, what we felt was important was to get our road standards so that developers are doing it how we want them to do it now, waiting and begging them to make road improvements, as well as protecting from vehicles and bodies of water, bodies of things that are on the roadway going into bodies of water. So this is just asking for a zoning code change and subdivision control change to basically the developers are responsible for improving the roadways to our standards and also protecting vehicles from going into bodies of water. So, any questions?
They didn't have it.
I don't think we got it. I don't think anybody got it.
Should have.
There's one. So the Plan Commission voted favorably
6-0.
6-0.
6-0. Well, if nobody's seen this,
Yeah, we probably need to wait.
let's continue this to the next meeting, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
Yeah, I
thought we went through this. I know.
Okay. Last thing, are we ready to move on?
yeah,
Okay, so Stephen can speak.
We're moving this to the next meeting.
Yes.
yeah.
So Stephen can kind of provide you with a little bit more detail, but instead of coming and providing all of you with all 11 abatements that are the compliance statements that are waiting for you in that thick packet that you did get, we put a summary together. Everybody is in compliance that submitted their paperwork. So we provided just a summary sheet just so you could kind of see the numbers in that. But everybody is in substantial compliance for this year for those abatements. So we just thought it would be more simple if we just asked for a waive, approve all of them in one fell swoop instead of having to go through each one. Tried to save time.
And staff and council have these.
Are they signing this?
They need to sign the second page of each of those, CF1s.
Huh?
Like we tried to make it.
That's the signature.
Does anybody have any questions on the?
No, I looked through them and through the summary, everything looked fine to me. I didn't see any issues. Did anyone have any issues?
Did you happen to check Steven's numbers? Like they're good?
Well, actually, Angie, you did. She put the summary together.
You gotta watch Steven on his numbers though.
Don't watch all lawyers on their numbers.
I know.
All right, is there a motion as regards the CF1s before us on this abatement compliance evaluation summary?
Move to accept.
All right, I'm gonna take that as a motion to find them all to be in substantial compliance.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Is that a valid motion, Stephen?
Yes.
That's it, okay. Vote by roll call, please, Deb.
Flurry,
Yes.
Roger Wilson,
Yes.
David Hawkins.
Yes.
Richard Hill,
Yes.
Joe Saylor.
Yes.
CF1s are in compliance, passes 5-0.
All right,
You don't have any.
I just have just quick updates.
Okay.
Just quick updates. Tornado update. The deadline for individual assistance for FEMA is tomorrow. So yesterday, the associate administrator from the SBA was in town from Washington DC, Francisco Sanchez. We took him on a tour, some information, did a press conference. That was just the key message was, again, tomorrow is the deadline for FEMA registration. Slim and I are going down to the county tomorrow, for our public assistance meeting with FEMA to kind of talk through the reimbursement process, what we are, how we're gonna have to submit all of our expenditures that we've incurred into the disaster. So we'll have more information on that. And just in general, things are starting to kind of get back into the groove of things as far as the building and the permits and things of that nature. And then the one last question I have for you or request is, we have been talking about this for a while, but is setting up our own town fund at the Community Foundation, the Johnson County Community Foundation, not the disaster relief one, but separate, just a community fund. So when we do events like community night and we request sponsorships for those type of events, it makes it more of a charitable contribution for businesses that want to donate, and it allows us to kind of use the Community Foundation to help us administer those expenses and the income that comes in through that. There is a slight fee if we set up a fund for them to do the administrative, 2%, I think, of whatever we put in. So my thought was, if we can establish a fund, other municipalities have them, Greenwood has a couple, Barkersville, Franklin. It allows us that flexibility to kind of, again, collect those dollars and it'd be tax write-off for the companies. We would like to take a portion of the Community Day dollars and kind of start the fund at the Community Foundation again. So it's just something I would like for your approval to kind of proceed with. We have the agreement from the Community Foundation to work with Stephen to make sure that the agreement's in kosher with him, and then to be able to move some dollars over. We can come back next month to agree on an amount to move over, if that's what you would like to see.
Well, they've seemed to be very able administrators in what I've seen from them with the long-term recovery group and whatnot. So they seem to be good people to have do that. Do you need us to take any action on that?
Probably, at least to see if we can enter into the agreement to set up a fund. I could come back if you would like to. We were thinking, we have $22,000 in the Community Day fund. We were thinking taking 10,000, putting it in there just to get started. But we don't have to. We can put, 5 in there. So we can come back with better justification if you want that on what we feel like would be needed to start the fund. They don't have a minimum. Well, I think it's 2,500.
Sounds like the request is for a motion to authorize opening of a fund with Johnson County Community Foundation and transfer $10,000 of Community Day money to it. Is there a motion to that effect?
Move to accept it.
Motion by Dave. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dave. We'll vote by acclamation, please. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Right, ayes have it. Any department heads want to be heard or anything? Council comment? Probably said enough. Public comment. Is there anybody that wants to be heard? Come on up, Mr. Plummer.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
I'll make my comment short and sweet. My name is Sean Butler, 599 Green Springs Drive. What I handed out to you is something I sent in your emails. I don't know if you were able to get them or not, as well as the invitation to contact me, ways to contact me. It's been 4 months since this issue has been put out, and as it's been put out, there's been limited opportunities to educate yourselves as well as others. So I'm giving you the contact information to contact the one person within the town limits that can go through and show you guys how it can be done properly, how it can be done successfully, and also the benefits as well as the drawbacks. In there, in the paper I gave you, I'm addressing some of the concerns as well as some of the benefits. As far as the ordinance goes, I'd like to point out that you don't need permits to go through and have gardens with fruit trees in your yard of any size or any quantity of your yard. You don't need to have permits to have any sort of dog. I can have 3 Great Danes in my backyard with less than an 1/8 of an acre and no one will say a thing. This is food. These are not pets. and therefore I would like to be treated as food. The vast majority of any diseases or any concerns that you can have as far as those diseases can be done simply by washing your hands after you handle raw meat or any animal, as well as cooking your food correctly. There have been 420 deaths nationwide. That is one, and I believe 10 million chance of you dying from salmonella in this country. You have more of a chance of being hit by a semi-truck on a country road on roller skates than getting salmonella down. So, with that being said, any restrictions outside of the number of chickens, I believe, is overkill. I have my chickens free roaming in a specific section of my yard where my garden is, which goes through and allows them to eat pests, fertilize my lawn, eat any roughage in my garden at the end of the year. I don't have to use chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers. My neighbors have no issues. The very first meeting that this was brought up, my neighbors came by and said they've never been offended by my chickens and they are closest to their house. I've had people come by asking for eggs. I give them away freely because I have so many. I get anywhere from 10 to a dozen a day. I have over 8 dozen in long-term storage that I haven't used yet that are good for up to 18 months. So in there, like I said, are all the numbers that I could go through and find about how you can get started cheaply and correctly. And as far as permits and regulations go, I shouldn't have to ask you, the town, permission to do what I feel is best for my family. I'm not harming anyone, I'm not hurting anyone. No one's complaining. Anyone who is affected loves them. Anyone who isn't affected should have no say. You should not have any say on what kind of dog I have in my backyard. You should not have any say on what kind of crop I grow in my garden. You shouldn't have any say what color I paint my house. What's the difference with chickens? They're not loud, dogs are louder, as you pointed out. They go through and produce all sorts of valuable resources and provide all sorts of valuable services. And I've had people who are hungry come to me and say, do you have any eggs available? And I say, yes, here you go.
You're at time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
If
you.
you guys have any questions, again, my contact information is in your email. You can call me. You have my number, Mr. Hill. Carmen has my number. You can get my email address. I invite you all. Call me. We'll set up a time you can come out and you can see how I have it laid out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Was there anybody else who wanted to be heard in public comment? All right, in that case, we'll adjourn. Thank you.